Subnautica is filled with a diverse selection of creatures, ranging from all sorts of shapes and sizes. And in this video, I'm going to rank every creature, starting from the smallest and working our way up to the leviathans. Warning, this is based on my personal opinions. If you think I'm wrong, that's your problem. Well, let's start this ranking video with the tiniest creature in the game. These small green guys are super underrated in my opinion. They don't really have any in-game uses, but their aesthetic is top tier in my eyes. They're green, they're glowing, they have little mouths that you could do horrible things to. B tier. The whole fish can be used as an early game food source, but a very mediocre one at that. But they do have a cool hole in their tail, allowing you to do CSGO karambit tricks if you manage to get your hands on one. B tier. These guys are very shy and will swim away if the player gets too close. This is because they are the best food source of the entire game, having enough protein to replace Sam Sulik's entire diet. Their aesthetic is simple yet clean, resembling a sunfish if it had Squidward's skin and a neon glowing gamer dorsal fin. S tier. I despise this thing with a passion. Its eye has seen through my jolly guise and judges the demon under this synthetic, fleshy vessel. A tier. If I wanted to be bitten and have the juices sucked from my body, I would have paid a visit to my uncle. Their aesthetic reminds me of one of those bionicle projectiles from the Baraki collection, which definitely tickles the autism in my brain. But these creatures have no other purpose than being an annoyance. C tier. Honestly, the hoopfish is just mid. Not many calories, not too cool looking. If this fish was a spice, it would be flour. However, it does have a goth-flavored cousin in the Lost River, which I think is a way cooler aesthetic than the basic RGB gamer fish. B tier. One of the best early game food sources and one of the most iconic fish in the game. A really cool thing about these guys is that they apparently have some level of intelligence, showcased at night when they close their eyes if they're being chased to become harder to find. A tier. One of the most abused fish early game for their ability to be turned into filtered water. You do it for survival, I do it because it tastes good. They are also used in the recipe for the air bladder, making them, I believe, the only fish to be used in a tool. A tier. Their name is very deceiving. They should be named 3-year-old toddlers because, unlike boomerangs, they don't come back after being thrown. They do have a lava variant known as the magmarang, but both of these guys are only here to serve as another mediocre food source. D tier. These guys have no real in-game function other than to look cool, and they do a great job since they look like penguins that can actually fly. One really cool fact is that you can drown them if you leave them underwater for too long. And don't ask me how I know that. A tier. Spiders are essentially just big, angry tadpoles, and I don't blame them for being angry. I'd be pissed too if I was stuck in my teenage body for the rest of my life. If you don't give it enough sunlight, they turn into these bad boys, complete with yellow skin and blank, soulless eyes. Just like me. A tier. So for the mesmer—
You will put me in S tier, you stupid piece of shit.
S tier. This dollar store cacodemon is very unique, since its solution to any sort of opposition is suicide. Not the healthiest coping mechanism, but very effective since they explode upon death. B tier. Now this would have been a basic, boring food source if it wasn't for the fact that you could hold it by its fleshy handlebar. This guy also happens to be the only small fish with a hatchable egg, even though the egg was supposed to be a reefback leviathan egg, but was cut for some reason. B tier. Shuttlebugs are scavengers, which means they don't do much. They look like the Eiffel Tower if it was designed by Cthulhu, which I'm kind of a fan of, but not necessarily crazy for. They do have an egg model that can be found in the alien containment facility, although you can't hatch it, which I find it to be a huge wasted opportunity. C tier. These kawaii cancer cells are some of my favorite creatures of the entire game. They're cute, carryable, and will suck on anything you stick them to. S tier. I don't like the way it's shaped. Doo-doo tier. The most distinct feature about this creature are its circular pads, which are used to hold them in place. And all I have to say about that is, why? They're under fucking water. Are they stupid or something? They don't need that to float. It comes naturally with being an aquatic animal. Why? D tier. These incredibly annoying creatures can be mainly found on the islands in Aurora Wreck, but they do have goth cousins that chill in the Blood Kelp zone in Green River, which makes a lot of sense since they apparently use various gases for body regulation, which I find to be a very cool immersive detail. B tier. I still hate the way they look. F tier. Okay, even though I'm not a big fan of my 600-pound life Eldritch Horror Edition, I will say in all fairness that this is the most unique fish in the game. This guy can only be found in an egg hidden in 5 spots around the game, and they have the most unique interactions, which I hope to see more of in the future. C tier. If there's one thing I hate more than my health being drained, it's my energy being drained. C tier. Rabbit rays are completely okay, I guess. Their only real interaction is that they stay near their eggs, patrolling them, which is kind of weird because there's nothing they can even do to protect them from me. D tier. Gotta say, I'm a huge fan of these things. I love the way that they can give themselves armor by swimming in lava, and I also find it fascinating and hilarious how they're just straight up racist towards warpers. S tier. These guys are also pretty cool, but it's really hard for me to take them seriously when they're built like a welcome mat. C tier. Believe it or not, the warper is only a nickname. Their government name is the Self-Warping Quarantine Enforcer Unit. This is because they're a biological creation of the precursors to help ensure that the Kara bacteria doesn't spread. And you can see this in game with the warpers inappropriately touching you when you're infected, but they chill out when you're cured, which is probably the greatest immersive detail in this game in my opinion. S tier. Just like Jackie Kennedy, these guys love chewing on metal. On top of metal, they'll also eat fish that happen to be in your hand, which will pacify them temporarily until they get hungry again. However, I'm not a big fan of the color scheme. B tier. Now, I used to think that these guys were some of the most useless creatures in the entire game, until I learned that you can use their fart sacks to kill leviathans World War I style. And putting that aside, I really like how they took a manatee and made it completely gas themed, from the tail to the face and just everything. A tier. It has a pretty cool design for a smaller predatory life form, and the most interesting thing about them is that their eyes are very sensitive to light, which gives me my next big video idea. 100 bone sharks versus 1 flashbang. C tier. This has got to be one of the most calming fish in the entire game. Not only are they extremely calming, but because of their bioluminescence, you can use them to help explore areas at night. But besides that, I have to admit they're quite useless. B tier. I hate these things. They look like the ball sack of Alien X, their EMP effect is painfully annoying, and they overall happen to be the most inconveniencing creature of the entire game. I hate them, they must be eradicated. F tier.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Now, I am very biased when it comes to covering creatures like this because I am a massive fan of deep sea fish aesthetics. And I feel like the river prowler is a great accumulation of all of the common tropes. However, the most odd thing about their appearance is the fact that you can't see any of their organs. This is actually a subtle nod to the fact that if you don't subscribe, I will harvest all your organs. A tier. The Ghost Ray is a very passive creature, doing nothing but swimming gracefully around the Lost River. That is all they do though. They have a special lava variant called the Crimson Ray that lives in the lava zone, and these guys are actually super interesting since they have eyes in the front of their body, signifying that at one point of their evolutionary history, they were once predators like P. Diddy and Dr. Disrespect. C tier. I have many mixed emotions about this swimming Tesla coil. Sure, they look cool, but leave them unattended for too long and they'll do ungodly damage to your vehicle. B tier. These creatures are awesome since they spawn shell outcrops everywhere they step, which makes me overlook the fact that they look kind of goofy and leave literal shit everywhere. S tier. This danger noodle is also a personal favorite of mine. I find their symbiotic relationship with the jelly shrooms super interesting and immersive. I also, for some odd reason, am just a really big fan of their grab animation. S tier. The classic Reaper Leviathan, the arguable face of Subnautica. This peppermint-colored creature is very aggressive, attacking on sight almost every time, which makes sense because I'd be just as violent if my teeth looked that messed up. Another horrible fact about this creature is that its roars act as an echolocation tool to find potential prey. So just remember, if you hear the roar, it knows exactly where you are. S tier. These gentle giants have barnacles on their back, which is one of the easiest sources of copper and silver early game. I find their design highly unique, even if it does look like a Temu Millennium Falcon. S tier. Probably the greatest translucent creature game design-wise. Not only are these guys terrifying, but if you take the time to do some reading, you'll learn that these guys potentially never stop growing. Which means we have no idea what the largest size ghost leviathan is. Who knows, maybe the underside of the planet is just one giant ghost leviathan. A tier. If you put Godzilla and Cthulhu into a blender, this would come out ready to cause war crimes. They are the largest, most aggressive predator in the game, meaning everything else is prey, making this guy the Black Air Force energy of the game. However, since there isn't much food for them, their species is actually going extinct, which is why you can only find 3 of them in the game. S tier. The largest and friendliest creature of the entire game. Although I'm not a big fan of the overall design compared to the sea dragon, I think the way they incorporated the sea turtle aesthetics works very well with the design as a whole. S tier. And here we have it, Subnautica's most ungodly tier list. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day.